The company is expanding rapidly, and they decided they want to buy in and install an off-the-shelf OTS ledger package to reduce the existing to replace the existing manual system. They're telling us also that it will need new equipment as well as network cabling throughout the offices, and that you are to manage this project, right? So we are the project manager here. Um, and they told us that this is the outline or the basic project plan that they have included, right? So what they've done is they have recognized, first of all, what the project is. And this project is simply to install a new ledger package. So whatever system they had before, they're throwing it out and they're starting something new, right? That's the first thing they tell us. After that, then they're also telling us that they already have the activity. So when we look at them, we're seeing the activity name, A, B, C, D. That's the activity name. The next part is what the task is. So activity A is simply to interview different account staff, draw up and agree on the requirements needed to run the project. So we're using staff that we already have on hand to find out what are the main things that they need in this system. So they were most likely the people using the old system. And so we're using their knowledge. So they're the subject matter expert in this case. And we're using their knowledge to figure out what specifics we need to have in this new program. It's like you're buying a phone, right? So we all have phones. When you're buying a phone, I use my phone for a lot of music. And so I make sure that I have a phone that has really good speakers. I make sure that I have a phone that has a lot of space because sometimes I like to make sure I own my music and I have it downloaded. Versus somebody else, like my husband, he does a lot of photography, so he wants a phone with good camera. So, based on that, we know which types of phones we're going to get based on the activity we're going to use. So that is the first level here, finding out what specifics we need. And when you all would have started doing your projects, you will recognize, okay, so my project is to pass this class. What is needed to pass the class? You need to study, you need to do your paper, you need to do your presentation, you need to be in a group, and you need to create all of the planning documents. That's it in no particular order. But when you know what you need to do, the next thing is to put them in order. So we listed all 5 or 6 of the activities that we mainly want. And then they put it in order. So they have them all first, and then they put it in order. So one is, we read it through everything, and we know, okay, the first thing to do is to identify. So we listed first. The second thing they want to do is to assess the alternatives. Then they want to specify exactly which one works best with the existing infrastructure of the company. Then they want to test and install the new software. After they've tested it, they're going to change it, right? They're going to modify it to what they need. Then they will fully install the package software on all of the systems. Then they're going to say which specific people need what specific access to the system. Then we will draw up a training plan to make sure we train people on how to use the program. Finally, we're going to draw up we're going to actually train them. Then we're going to draw up the acceptance test plan. So yes, we've trained you, but how do we make sure that you are indeed trained? Then the final one would be the acceptance testing to see how well it has worked in the organization. And then the final thing is to load the data and actually start implementing this new system, right? That's how they will go about installing a new package to their company, to whatever department this is going to be set in. So something as simple as upgrading software, you can build a project for it, which is why I told you all that for this class, your project is to pass the class. Right? You have specifics that you need to complete, put them in order, some sort of order that makes some sort of logical sense. Either you put it in order of what needs to be done first, going on, so forth and so forth, and you know how much inside activities you need to have, or you can put it in order of where the resources are, right? Who is available to do what. So you set your for instance, maybe you can say you want to complete your paper totally before you start working on the presentation. Or you can say you do the basic structure of your presentation, and then from that structure of the presentation, then you complete the paper. It's up to you. whichever way you think your resources will be best used. So after we have all of the tasks, then again, we put it in order, and based on the order we've chosen, then we say which activity comes first, second, last, etc. Usually hand in hand with selecting or recognizing which activities you need, we also recognize how long you need to complete the activity, right? So these weeks will be based on previous knowledge. It's going to be based on consultations with experts on this. So in this case, they're installing a system. They most likely reached out to a few persons. Like they said here, they're going to reach out to see which one is most appropriate. If it's something that needs to be bought from an external person, part of that would probably be reaching out to find out how long will this take. Or you can reach out to somebody else who has done the process before, a subject matter expert, and ask them for timelines that make sense. So once you've created these timelines, right? So we have a baseline here of how long we should take for each project. Then they're telling us that they need us to, so after this, we're going to basically go ahead and we're going to create that work breakdown structure. So for the first thing, we have activity A, right? And then the duration here is 6 weeks, right? So I'm just going to put 6 in duration. I can put weeks in brackets. And since I don't feel like changing that, I'm just going to wrap this text. And I'll probably wrap this text also so that it's not taking up so much space. My keyboard is moving weird. All right, so activity A takes 6 weeks. And is there anything that has to come before activity A? No, they don't say so. So we're going to put a dash here. We know nothing comes before. Or you know what? We're not going to do proceeding as yet. The next one that we have here is our activity B, right? So we need to assess the alternatives. That's going to take us about 6 weeks. Then they want us to, the next one is activity C. Oh, wow. Activity C, we need to specify in order all of the required hardware that we need. So we need 3 weeks for that. Activity D, we need to test and install. So we need 9 weeks for testing and installing. Activity E, we're going to modify the test package. So in this case, it's going to be 15 weeks. Then we're going to install. We need 1 week to install. To specify and obtain account information, we need 6 weeks for that. For us to draw up our training. Why does it keep doing that? Right. Training plan will take us 3 weeks. Then we need to train. And training will take us 9 weeks. Then finally, we're going to, well, not finally, we're going to draw up an acceptance plan, and that's going to take us 3 weeks. All right, can anybody guess what the next activity is going to be? Anyone? Nobody can guess what the next activity is? Okay, perfect. And how long will that activity take? 4 weeks. And the last activity? Ooh, and this one is going to take us how long? Perfect. Right? So when we have to create preceding activities, how did you all figure out what comes before what? Any project managers here want to tell me how they decided what comes before what? Okay. So what comes before activity A? Any guesses? Exactly. Nothing comes before activity A. Activity A is our first activity. So if we're going to assess the alternatives, what do we need to interview account staff to find out what's needed first? Logically, using our logical framework. Do you think we need to find out what's needed before we can look out to see what's available? Or do you think we can just start looking to see what's available first? Yeah, right. So we need to see what is available before we can see alternatives. Like we can't have alternatives if we don't know what is needed, right? So we do activity A before we do activity B. So therefore, activity A is a preceding activity to, like, is it preceding or proceeding? I forgot to check that. Yeah, it's precede, not proceed. Proceed is to go forward. Precede is to come first. Sorry. Um, okay, and then we don't have it. Like that's for proceed. Yeah, I think that's how you spell it. I don't know why my brain isn't working there. All right, so for activity C, for us to specify the order in which in which equipment is needed, do you think we can just go straight into that, or would you as a project manager want to do any preceding activities before you get there? Not sure? All right, so tooltip, usually these things come with guides, so I'm gonna put your guide over here. Um, and let me merge and center, and I'm going to put the guide in here. Can it fit? Does it all fit? All right. So let's look at our guide, right? So our guide tells us that all of these dependencies, right, between the 12 tasks, they're telling us that B is dependent. He is trying to come in. All right. So they're telling us that B is dependent on A, right? Then they're telling us C, E, H, and J all depend on B, right? So if C depends on B, right? So B depends on A, then they're telling us C, E, H, and J all depend on B. So we can go ahead and we put B here, right? So we have it in C. Where else do we put B? E, H, and J. Hold on, I have somebody coming in. Welcome, Alicia. All right. So the next one they're telling us that they all depend on B. They're telling us for D, D and E. No. They're telling us F depends on D, E, G. So F depends on you completing D. It also depends on you completing E, just D and E, right? Then they're telling us the G depends on E. So we go down to G. This one also depends on E. Then they're telling us that I depends on H, right? And what about K and L? All right, so they're telling us that F does depend on you completing, K depends on F. It also depends on I, and then finally it depends on J. Right, and just as you said, for L, we see that it's dependent on you completing G, and it's also dependent on you completing K. Right, so usually, if you're doing a work breakdown, it will not have this, right? If you're doing a work breakdown on your own for your own project, there will not be a guide. No guide will be available to you. You have to look at your activities, you have to read them and make sense of what comes before what. However, if you are in a classroom setting, for instance, if any of you go ahead and do your PMP or CAPM qualifications, in those cases, you will definitely have to, yeah, you'll definitely have to, they will have a guide for you, right? But in real life, there's usually no guide, right? That's why I didn't put the guide up first. So when we have these set up, what we've done here is we have basically completed our work breakdown structure. So our work breakdown structure can be done in this way where it is a table. The other way that we can do work breakdown structure is in a flow chart, and that's what I saw a lot of you did. So how that flow chart would look is that you will have A, and then you will see that A will have an arrow, and then we will see that it leads to B, right? And then B in turn will have space, well, an arrow or a drop-down list where we're going to see C underneath that, we're going to see E underneath it, we're going to see H underneath it, and we're going to see J underneath it, right? D also has no preceding activities, right? Oh, hold on. B depends on C. Yeah, we missed that one. D depends on C. Right, so D will be leading to C in our work breakdown, and then we'll see C with B underneath it, right? So if you're going to do a work breakdown structure, if you're going to do it in a flow chart, it will have a lot more of this information in it versus doing it in a table form where it really just looks like this. So the table form is usually the easiest form to complete a work breakdown structure. Once you have completed your WBS, so I'm going to highlight this so that we have it looking, yeah, some color. We put blue in there just because I like blue. This part here, I will format it as a table. I want to insert, no, format as a table. Give me a sec. Let me just format these real quick. Inside lines, outside lines. Perfect. Good. Then the next thing that we'll have is our Gantt chart. Now, how your Gantt chart will look is that it will have your activity. Then you will have your duration. You're gonna have, well, not really preceding activities usually. You have float if you're gonna have, well, you'll have your early start, late start, all of these different lists. Now you see them on the PERT chart, so I'm not gonna put them here because I did that PERT chart example. So just refer to that. But then you have your early start, late start, etc. going across. And then finally, you're going to start having that schedule. So what your schedule would look like is that you're going to have a bunch of different columns like this, right? Hold on, somebody is coming into Google. Admit. All right. Yeah, so you're gonna have a bunch of different things like this. Let me format it. I'm trying to get the format, but my thing is here. All right. My column width. I'm going to make this 1. Good. So if you're doing a Gantt chart, it will probably look something like this. Now, please don't do this. Like, don't do your Gantt chart offhand like this. It will take you a lot of time. I always suggest that you all go ahead and use the formats that are available. But this is just for teaching purposes. I'm just doing it here so that everything is in one place. So you see the flow from one document to the next. So here we have our activity A, we have our activity B, just A, stop doing that. Then we have C. Let me see if it allows me to copy down and fill. It should allow me to fill. Oh my God, no. Where is, they don't have fill series. So let me just undo that. And we've got D. You know what? What I honestly usually do is just copy this. And that's why I suggested that you all do this when you're doing yours. Yeah, usually just copy and paste. All right. So now that we have this, this here can be my week 1. This can be my week 2, my week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have 10, 11, 12. Let me get some more space going here. Right. I'm not sure, like my computer, I'm not sure if this is a new Microsoft setting, but I found recently it's not allowing me to use my fill series as it should. Not entirely sure why Microsoft did that. Okay, so yeah, got a bunch of different weeks. All right, so they're telling us that activity 1 is going to take us 6 weeks, right? So activity A, we highlight from week 1 to 6, and we put some color in here. All right, so the first 6 weeks, we know that we're doing this blue means that that's how long we're spending on that first one. Then we're told that activity B, right? If we go back up here to our work breakdown structure, they're telling us that activity B cannot start until activity A is done. So therefore, activity B starts here, and we're running activity B for an additional 6 weeks. So that's going to be here. We're going to fill that. They're telling us that activity C starts after activity B and it runs for 3 weeks. So we've got 3 weeks after activity B, right? Then they're telling us that for activity D, it starts after we finish activity C, right? So for activity D, we have an additional 9 weeks here. So I'm gonna have to get some more space. Let me see if it changes to 20. No, it doesn't. It copies. Give me a sec. Yeah, let me just take all of these. Um, Okay. So the next one is activity D, right? So we're told that activity D, the preceding activity is C, right? So we need 9 weeks for this one. So we're moving from here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these are all going to be blue. Then for the next one, they're telling us that for activity E, it starts after activity B. Now, this is where things start to change a little bit. So for E, we actually don't need to wait for these others. We can start it right after activity B, right? So activity B ends here. So activity E can start here and it can go for 15 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think I counted that correctly. You can just correct me if I haven't, but I think, I think it's 15. For the next one, they're telling us that activity F, it starts after D and E. So we have to wait until D and E are finished. So E finishes here. So activity F runs for 1 week. So it's going to be here, just this one. They're telling us that for the next one, activity G, it starts after activity E. So can anybody tell me where activity G is going to start? Tell me which week you think on the 27th? Yep, yep, that's exactly it. Hold on, I'm just trying to get these lines in so that at least it looks organized. All right, so 27, day 27, G starts after E. So yeah, E finishes here. So the very next day here, G, and it runs for how long? It runs for 6 weeks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's going to be blue. Then they're telling us for the next one, activity H, it starts after B and it runs for 3 weeks. So can somebody else tell me where activity H is going to start and where it's going to end? It will start at 13 and end where? 15. Perfect. Yeah, so it runs for 3 weeks and it starts after B. So B ends here, we start here. For the next one, they're telling us that activity I starts after H, and it runs for 9 weeks. Can anybody tell me where activity I will start? Pardon? 16, yes. So we start at 16 and then we count 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We change the color to blue. Then they're telling us that activity J starts after B. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So B stops here. Activity J then starts here. And we've got 3 weeks on that. For the next one, we've got for activity K, we've got 3 proceeding activities there. So can anybody tell me where they think activity K will start? Anybody? Nobody can guess where activity K will start? Oh, pardon? Oh yeah, I just filled J in. I forgot to put the color. Yeah, so where do you think K will start? On the 28th? All right. So when we look at it, we see that K's preceding activities are F, I, and J, right? So um, F starts in week 27, right? And it ends again in week 27. Then we're seeing that I starts in week 16 and ends in week 24. And then we're also seeing the J starts in week 13 and ending at 15. So therefore, we have to start it after the last event. So yes, 100%, we start in week 28 and we run this for 4 weeks, right? So K starts in, oh my goodness, wow. All right, so my color. For my final activity, activity L, where will it start? Week 33, right? So it's going to start at week 33 and then it's going to go for 3 weeks. So 1, 2, 3, I'm going to just put that color in there and we recognize that, we do need some more space here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill those in. But yeah, that is it. That we just constructed a work breakdown structure. And then we also constructed a Gantt chart from the information given. So at this point in time, does anyone have any lingering questions on how to do work breakdown structure or how to do a Gantt chart, like a basic Gantt chart? Any questions on how to do a Gantt chart, guys? No lingering questions on how to do a Gantt chart. Like at this point, we all understand how to do Gantt charts and work breakdown structure, how to think about the logical framework. So if you have a question on how to do this or further from what we've done, can you update your work breakdown structures and Gantt charts to look like this? Do you think any of you will have any difficulty plotting these graphs for your own projects? Or is it clearer now? Clearer for you? Anybody else? Much clearer? All right, so I'm so happy that we got that out of the way because I did do one for PERT and I wanted to do one for these, but I thought it best to do it in class because I looked at your work and I did see some miscommunications there. So I wanted to make sure that I took you through the whole process and so that we can address, anything that was up because while I know for this class, I didn't give you too much firm instructions on what I want your personal work breakdown structures to look like. I told you the reasons why, but I wanted to make sure that you understand how it generally works in a project management setting and how to rationalize from the first to the last. So move this lesson, attach this lesson to what we learned in for PERT. I would have already sent you all, well, I already uploaded the recording on how to create a PERT chart. If you haven't viewed that recording, please do. Yeah, but if you have any further questions from there, we can deal with that in class next week. But I want to I want to be pretty much wrap up working on Gantt and work breakdown. So your test is finished. Please update your Gantt charts and upload it. I did see some of you haven't done the Gantt. And if you have anything you want to change on the work breakdown, go ahead and do so. I have looked at the files that you guys sent. And I will release marks soon, but I want to give you the rest of the week to finish that up and to also do your PERT chart, right? So your PERT chart is taking these now and plotting it on a graph. So what will that look like? I'm going to do the basic PERT, but I'm not going to go into doing the full network structure of it as yet, right? But we're going to do a basic PERT chart from this. The full explanations, the full calculations on how to do float and everything is in the recording. For this, I just want to look at that. All right, so I'm going to do it. Let me drag this down here so that I can see it instead of copying and pasting it again. So I'm dragging this down here. increase that space. All right. So if we were going to do a PERT chart for this, we recognize that, okay, our first activity is activity A. So we put A here. There are no preceding activities to A, so we leave it here by itself. Let me caps lock. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me see if I had a student that was trying to get into the other chat. See, this is going to end my call in 15 minutes. So yeah, it's going to be really confusing to be coming out and going back in. Okay, we'll figure that out just now, though. Yeah, so if the class ends, just come back into this, come back into this chat. I'll see if it will allow me to open this back, or I'm going to have to start a new link. But after this, we'll take a break, and then we're going to come back at 7 o'clock, right? So if we cut off, we go on a break and we come back at 7 o'clock. And I will make a note on Moodle as to where we come back. If we're going to be able to start a new Google link, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to actually try to use the same one. If not, I'm going to send a new link in Moodle for us to use. Okay. And I'm going to try to figure out like a better way of doing this, because, you know, I don't want to have you guys cutting off and then coming back in. Yeah. So for the PERT chart, we start with activity A. We're told that activity A feeds straight into activity B. So A and then B. They're telling us after B, we have activity C. And activity C uses B as a preceding activity. So we've got C here. For B, we also see E being led from there. We also see activity H, right? And then we have G, right? Then we're told for activity D, it leads from activity C. And then they're telling us that we have activity E, which is here, sure. You know what? I'm going to need some space in between these. So activity E is preceded by B. Yeah. Okay, so for D, it comes after C, and then we've got E coming after B, so we're here. And then we have F coming after D and E, so F will be here. And that's after D plus E. Then they're telling us that activity G comes after E. So let's put G right here. Then we've got H. Okay, we've got that one in already. We've got I leading off of H. So yeah, see, I really needed some more space here. Let me insert a line, one row. Okay, so E is leading to F, and then E is also leading to G. Yes. Oh, no. F and G. All right, and then we've got activity H leading to B. We've got I coming out from H, so I is going to be here. Then we've got J after B. We've got that one in already, but we've got K coming after F, I, and J. So F, I, and J leading us over to activity K. And then activity L is leading from G and K. So G is up here, K is down here. I'll put activity L here. Right, so this is not a great representation at all. Let me just scribble in some lines so that you all can see. But yeah, A is leading to B. Then we've got B leading to C, B also leading to E, B leading to H, and B leading to J. Then we've got C leading to B. For E, we see that leading to F. And then we also see E leading to G. We see H leading straight to activity I. Then we see J. Where does J lead? J is leading us to activity K. We also see I leading us to activity K. And then we see F leading down to activity K. Then we see G leading straight to activity L. And then we see K leading to activity L also. Like these two should not have been crossing. But because of how I set it up, that's why it's doing that. But you can see the lines. Now, the only problem is that I don't see D attaching to something. So F is preceding. Okay. So D is also leading to activity F, right? So F has D and E in front of it. I only put the E, right? So we've closed off everything. So everything has a starting point and everything has an ending point. So while we have this activity graph here, if you actually look over here, you'll see the same thing happening in our Gantt chart. Like you can look at this and follow where those lines go, right? And you'll see the same stretches happening. It's just the same information plot out in different ways so that we can see it and make decisions based on what's available to us. All right, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop the recording here and I'll find out now if any of you have any questions in relation to how we do our work breakdown, our Gantt chart, and then lead straight into our PERT chart because that's your assignment for the rest of this week. When we come back in class, I'm going to take you through the next half of the class, which is more reading stuff. Like that's theory work. But this is the last of working that we're pretty much doing in class on planning documents.